Alright bros, sup bros, Yoshi Bros here, welcome back to another video, and today, I believe you guys deserve another iceberg, cause you know what, why not? I also decided as of this new iceberg video that I'm gonna make it a tradition to make at least one iceberg once a year, so there's that to look forward to. With that being said though guys, I'm gonna be covering the Cuphead iceberg video. Now, I found this iceberg on the Iceberg website made by a user on Reddit named Amaranth. I probably butchered that, but yeah. Now, this iceberg has 143 entries. That is a lot of entries if you guys didn't know. My previous iceberg had about 200 if I'm not mistaken, give or take, but yeah. Also guys, as a heads up, I'm going to be having a special guest feature on the third layer of this iceberg. So if you're looking forward to that, yeah. So, without further ado, play this on your TV, get something to drink or eat, or turn on that sleep timer. Without further ado, this bout is about to get red hot. It's time to watch the Cuphead iceberg. Tier 1, the Moldenhauer Brothers. The Moldenhauer Brothers are our messiah for this iceberg. Their lifelong dream was to create a lot of games, and thankfully through Microsoft they managed to do that, and it was a lot hard to do. By that I mean they decided to gamble on a risk, no pun intended, but they decided to take on a hard work that was creating Cuphead, because fun fact, every single frame of animation had to be hand drawn. The carpal tunnel must have been insane, I know that for a fact. We quit our jobs, remortgaged our houses. Yeah, this one is true. Both of the Moldenhauer brothers literally, quite literally, quit their well-paying jobs and remortgaged their homes to create Moldenhauer Studios, or Studio MDHR, to make their game. Now, is this psychotic? Absolutely. But without them ever doing that, this iceberg wouldn't have existed, or it probably would have been something else. Rage game. This entry is about how this game sometimes makes you rage. And I know a thing or two about raging. Oh, would you look at that? I just ate. I walked right into that, didn't I? On the last phase. Why, God? Why do you hate me? Why, God? Why? Yeah, apparently they did this to replicate how games were extremely difficult, especially during the 80s and 90s. A perfect example being Mega Man, because I know the OG one was pretty hard. Cuphead Show. The Cuphead Show is a Netflix adapted show based off of the game. I personally have not seen the Cuphead Show at all, however, I have seen a lot of funny clips on it, especially my favorite one is the one of Mugman knowing the fact that his brother is not going to heaven because of the things that he's done. That one personally is one of my favorite clips, honestly. Cuphead theories. This entry is about one of MatPat's most infamous videos, that is being Cuphead. Now, the theory is basically about how Cuphead and Mugman are moonshiners. I highly recommend you guys watching it for yourself for nostalgia's sakes, but the theory doesn't really hold up, especially because it's implied that both Mugman and Cuphead are in their early to late teens, which again, it doesn't really imply anything, but it's also more implying that they really can't do it. Not to mention also because this is a physical world not based in the United States. Also, even if it is, I mean, realistically speaking, not a lot of people got arrested for it in the day because practically everyone was doing it. So, yeah. The tutorial is impossible. This entry is about how a game journalist named Dean Takahashi spent 2 minutes and 45 seconds on just jumping. He then spent 23 minutes on Forest Follies. It's trying to beat the tutorial. Yes, the very first and easiest part of the goddamn game. It was so bad that MatPat had to debate whether or not journalists should get any leeway when it comes to games. That is how bad it was. Trying to beat the tutorial, all because he didn't know how to press Y on the goddamn controller. Cuphead rap. This entry is about the Cuphead rap song that JT Music made about Cuphead, and I still think it's a banger personally. However, me personally, I prefer Roll or Die, which is another song that is pretty good. But yeah, Cuphead in Smash. Cuphead in Smash refers to the fact that Cuphead was introduced as a Mii outfit all the way back in 2020. It really does suck that he wasn't a full-fledged character, but hey, I mean, I'll take what I can get. The man's in freaking Smash Bros. What did you do, Dad? But hey, at least he could fight Sans now, so there's that. Cuphead delays. This entry is referring to the fact that Cuphead has been in development hell for the past ages. If you thought GTA 6 getting delayed to my birthday of next year, I will be 21, by the way. I will be legally able to drink when GTA 6 releases. That is how crazy of a statement that is. I was 7 years old when the first one came out. Enough of my rant though. If you think the delay of GTA 6 is bad, Cuphead will make GTA 5 look like Father of the Year the way it was released. It was originally slated for a 2011/2012 release. However, they then pushed it back to 2014/2015, then pushed it again back to 2016, and then finally it came out on September 29th, 2017. And then, of course, the Delicious Last Course as well was a little bit in development hell as well, because it was also originally slated for 2018. Then it got pushed back to 2019. Then the pandemic happened, so, you know, then it was slated for 2021, got delayed until 2022. But yeah, I pointed this out in one of the previous entries, but the reason why it took so long is because they had to hand draw every single frame of animation, and there's sometimes hundreds, if not thousands, of frames that they have to do for a set animation. That is probably why the reason why it kept getting delayed a lot, because again, it really does take a lot of time to single-handedly draw every single frame. Cuphead Indie Cross. Cuphead Indie Cross is an 8-bit Friday Night Funkin' game where you come across a bunch of indie game characters. A lot of them being like Sans, Bendy, Cuphead, Hollow Knight, a bunch of them. It does look fun though. Honestly, I should try it, but... Anti-piracy hoaxes. Like many successful titles, for some reason, a lot of people believe that there's an anti-piracy screen for the people who try to crack or, you know, try to pirate the game. But it has been stated multiple times by Chad Moldenhauer that there is no anti-cheat system or anti-piracy methods at all, and most of these that you see online are fan-made. But again, a lot of people believe it. I personally don't, because, you know, if one of the creators is literally saying that it doesn't exist, well, it doesn't exist. Custom Cuphead Arcade. The Custom Cuphead Arcade is basically a dedicated fan who decided to make an arcade system out of Cuphead. Like, they literally made a PC and then, like, coded it for the buttons and turned a real-life arcade into a Cuphead-style machine. And honestly, it runs Windows, so it really is honestly kind of cool to see how a bunch of people, especially if you know how to do a bunch of stuff like that, especially if you know how to use tools and stuff, and you're really good with engineering. Other rubber hose games. The term rubber hose apparently just means games that are in the style of 1920s to 1940s cartoons. A perfect example of this being Bending the Ink Machine, Mouse PI for Hire, and Enchanted Portals. All have that sort of, you know, 1930s-esque charm, you know, that Steamboat Willie sort of thing. But yeah, no. Cuphead merch. This entry just means all the merch that they've released within the years, like shirts, plushies, vinyl records, CD discs, etc. More about that later. Cuphead fan animations. Cuphead fan animations basically just refers to the fan animations that are. There's two famous ones that I always remember. The first one being Pimations, where Cuphead basically just drinks himself to death and, you know, they revive him and then, yeah. And of course, Hot Diggity Demons animation, where Cuphead accidentally kills Mugman by shooting him in the face, and then he tries to fix himself. He tries to fix Mugman, but he can't. And honestly, I think I like it because of the meme face that Cuphead makes, where he's like scratching his chin and he's like, But yeah. Use a you know that? This entry is about a tweet that a fan made of Mugman crashing out on YouTube poops, and he famously saying, "Use a you know that?" But yeah, no. That's just it. And yeah, that was the first layer or tier. I personally just don't really care to say which one is which, because they're basically both the same. But yeah, on to tier 2. Cuphead art books. This entry is about the Cuphead art books that Studio MDHR released, which shows a bunch of scrapped / unused concept, or just even concept art in general. And it shows both for regular and the DLC a bunch of cool concepts, and honestly, I really do like it. Anniversary update only on Xbox. This is referring to the 7-year anniversary update only releasing on Xbox, which just shows a bunch of cut content and again, a few other types of concepts as well. Bendy X Cuphead. No! Yeah, no, but this one's referring to the countless artworks that both medias have, especially, you know, basically just them doing yaoi together. But, yes, you heard me right. Some people just have too much time on their hands, but yeah, no official statement has ever had them collaborating though, so yeah. Jareed Head. Jareed Head is a cropped photo of Jared Moldenhauer that is found when textures don't load in game. This usually happens when you try to load cut content and the texture for whatever you're trying to load is missing, and typically it just shows a photo of Jareed. It also might just be referring to Cuphead's long lost cousin, which is just Jared Head. I don't know, what do you want me to say? The fuck? Unused bosses. This entry is referring to the crazy amount of unused bosses that have been around since the beginning of Cuphead. From the light to later being repurposed for the Moonshine Mob as a new phase, to the King Card, which was again another unused boss, to the infamous Pachinko machine, which was almost ready, but it never got released, probably because it didn't fit the era of the time, considering, you know, they were supposed to be in the 1930s, and Pachinko machines are more of a modern thing. Tetrabit Gaming Lost Bits video. Tetrabit Gaming is a YouTuber who specializes in data mining and finding cut content on a bunch of games. In 2017, he made a specific video, a certain specific Lost Bits video that sort of boosted him into the mainstream. By that I mean he uploaded it at the perfect time and caused him to have one of, if not his most famous video, still be about Cuphead, which again, it really showed how good it was for back in the day. But also, him making that video boosted him in a lot of views and subscribers, and fun fact, is one of the only few people I have ever bought YouTuber merch from. And also fun fact, he gave me permission to use this video as background. Secret boss phases. This entry is talking about an update that happened around 2019 where a few bosses were changed for them to have secret boss phases. The only ones I could remember off the top of my head were the Root Pack, Dejimi the Great, and Sally Stage Play. All three of these had originally unused phases, however they were now repurposed to have a quote-unquote secret phase. Coin Op Bop. Coin Op Bob is referring to the infamous run and gun level that was cut due to lack of time. Apparently Cuphead and Mugman were able to play certain arcade mock-up games, and the soundtrack in the official game still has it available, but it was just cut because of lack of time. This specific person made a mock-up of how it would look like, which is, again, interesting to say the least, and I really do like it. Map shortcuts. This is referring to the shortcuts that you could use in the overworld to skip certain parts or just skip around without having to beat specific bosses. Every single map has a shortcut except Inkwell Hell. Reworked content. This entry is about all the stuff that at first were cut, later reworked. Like for example, the radish from the root pack, which is a secret phase, and again, the Sally stage play incident where her husband passes away and she becomes a nun, again, was originally cut content, but then it was reused into a secret phase. And also the most infamous one being the light boss, which was sort of like a tutorial boss that they found in the files, was later now reworked into a phase for the Moonshine Mob. Cuphead Macintosh animated trailer. This is referring to the trailer that they did for the port of Cuphead for the Mac, but yeah. Hidden coins. This is referring to the many coins you need to find hidden in every single part of the map, especially Inkwell Isles 1, 2, 3, and Hell. It's also required for you to find all of the hidden coins if you want to buy every single charm in the game. And weapons. Speaking of, unused weapons. The unused weapons of the game, there being a bunch of unused weapons. One of the most famous ones being an arc where, as it's shown, you shoot it and it shoots in an arc. Also, the ranged exploder, which is a weapon that deals more damage the farther you are away from it. And also the triple laser shot, which later got reworked into the convolved shot. Rubber hose style is now Cuphead style. This is referring to how many people just don't call it rubber hose style anymore, primarily because Cuphead became really popular. I wouldn't say like full-on mainstream popular, unlike Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm just saying. But yeah, it's easier to say the Cuphead style than the rubber hose style because again, Cuphead sort of made it popular. Bendy crawled so Cuphead could run is the best way I can describe it. Mugman Army glitch. This is referring to a glitch in the game where every time the second player leaves and joins back very quickly, a new Mugman spawns. And this happens both in the overworld and inside of bosses, which, funny enough, for every Mugman you spawn, it sort of adds more damage to the player, but also a lot of people used it to help speedrun because again, for every Mugman you spawned in meant more damage to do, meaning theoretically speaking, if you had enough Mugmen, you quite literally could one-shot. But also, a lot of people used it just to lag their games to see how many Mugmen they can spawn without the game crashing. You might think that this glitch is broken, but trust me, you ain't seen nothing yet, son. Rapid weapon swap glitch. This is another infamously famous glitches where you could swap almost instantaneously with any weapon, comparing it to any other weapon. Pairing it with Lobber and Roundabout, making it one of the most overpowered pairings of all time. You could quite literally defeat a boss in seconds. Yes, you heard me right, seconds. Inconsistent gloves. This entry is referring to a lot of artwork and in-game footage showing how their gloves change from time to time, from them being white to them being golden to them having lines on them or them having great detail. It was found out that it was done on purpose by Studio MDHR, as this was a nod to 1930s and 40s cartoons where again a lot of their gloves were inconsistent. This was also primarily because it was very hard to draw during those times, as in, again, they had to draw every single frame back in the day. So it just made it easier for them to just not be consistent with the gloves. But yeah, this is just a nod to that era of time. Cuphead fanfics. Oh god, no! Yep, that's pretty much it. They exist. I don't want to talk about it. They just happen. So yeah. King Dice is Tumblr sexy man. Basically, according to his wiki page, he's dubbed as a sexy man, which is a term for good-looking characters, and there's a lot of posts that show this on Tumblr, apparently. Cuphead Comics. Cuphead Comics is basically what it says. There's official comic books from Cuphead and Mugman. Apparently 3 have been officially published, but there's more to be coming soon. Unlockable filters. This entry is about how you can unlock multiple filters. The 2 well-known ones are the 2-striped filter, which you get for averaging an A on every single level. And yes, that means every single level. Which makes your vision a little bit different. It sort of sees it in a kind of way where a lot of red things stick out more and everything is a little more blurred out, if you will. And then the other more famous filter, the black and white filter, which I personally love. I hate getting it though because that was a pain in my ass to get. But basically you have to get a P on every single run and gun levels, which basically just means to get a P you just not have to fire a single shot at all to get a P. But it makes it so everything is black and white, kind of like in that era of cartoons, because, you know, primarily those cartoons were in black and white because, you know, color TVs weren't invented just yet. r/Cuphead. This is just the Reddit of Cuphead. That's about it. Cuphead songs with lyrics. This entry is just all the Cuphead songs with a playlist on YouTube that are the ones that only have lyrics. So basically, it's just a playlist of songs that have actual lyrics to them. That's it. If Mario was in Cuphead. If Mario was in Cuphead was a video made by the man, the myth, the legend, SMG4. And honestly, a really good video. I recommend watching. But shout out to SMG4. Don't forget to watch his last video on December 27th before he finishes ever posting ever again. But yeah, bro's goated, and I can't wait for, I can't wait for his last video because, again, it'll be really special. Awesome Gaming Land. This entry is just about a YouTuber that does rubber hose games, including Cuphead and some mods. That's really it though. Shikata Cartoons. Again, another rubber hose YouTuber that does similar things in this content space, but yeah. Casino Cups. Casino Cups was a fan animation where it was a scenario where Cuphead and Mugman worked in the casino and they just sort of chilled around, did their job, you know, maybe bartend or gamble a little. But yeah, personally, when I was a kid, I used to love watching that series, especially when like they asked a bunch of questions and they just responded in character. Like when I was 13, those videos were absolutely goated. But honestly, hopefully they'll make a comeback sometime soon, but who knows. That was tier 2. Oh boy, guys, I'm really tired right now. I'm gonna take a quick nap and I'm gonna let my bro Major Spooked do this tier for me because I can't. On to tier 3, guys.
Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is MJ. I'm from the Major Spooked channel at Major Spooked. Probably also in the subscription box below if the new YouTube collab feature works. I make SML videos and horror videos and SML horror videos. So if either of those sound interesting to you, drop down there, give me a subscribe. Make sure you also sub to my boy Yoshi Bros since he put a lot of effort into this video. Alright, now let's get going. Grongius. Grongius is another Cuphead YouTube channel that does a bunch of unique content like playing Cuphead on a Guitar Hero controller. His content varies, but it's usually always something Cuphead related. Hater Percent. This entry is about a YouTuber named The Mexican Runner who did a 200% S plus P rank run with no charms and only the P shooter. This legend did it in 8 hours, 1 minute, and 19 seconds. And it was completed around November 2017, which is insane because that was only 2 months after the game was released, which means this legend did it with only 2 months of practice. Peterhead. This is just a meme photo of Peterhead, aka Peter Cuphead, Quagman, aka Quagmire Mugman, and Joe as Cagney Carnation. Early design gameplay. This entry is about the footage of a lot of the early design gameplay, and multitude of other things from that era. From Elder Kettle's house looking like a cup house, to Cuphead and Mugman having a chibi style. Even the layout of Inkwell Isle 1 looks completely different, like Captain Brinybeard being in Isle 1. I'm really glad they changed that since it took me forever to beat Brinybeard in Isle 3. And when they take damage, they bling red. Also, the sounds weren't added, so they improvised and used their own. There's more in the video that Yoshi can't show. Go watch the full video linked below. Also, you can toss me and Yoshi a sub while you're down there, you know. Revive second player. If you didn't parry the ghost of the second or first player, and the current living player has more than 1 HP left, the dead player can press the pause button and it transfers the HP to the second player. Unused The Airship song. This song shows up in the soundtrack, although it was never used. Footage of the airship is still online while you fight Jelly the Octopus. His design you can find in the official art book. The unused Coin Op Bop song. This entry was referenced in Layer 2, but this is referring to the song in the official soundtrack that has this song, and of course, the scrapped level to accompany it. Unused Hurry Up song. Yet another unused song in the official soundtrack of Cuphead. This one is interesting because it's implying that originally you would have had a time limit to beat bosses, similar to games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Fun fact, one of the early builds did actually have a time limit. Maybe it would have played whenever the time limit was getting close to running out? Who knows? Cuphead Geico commercial. Yeah, this one is real. It shows a Cuphead-style Geico gecko. Unfortunately, it was posted on April Fool's Day of 2022, but still fun to look at. Devilish Cheats. Devilish Cheats is a mod menu / trainer for Cuphead, and many people use them to cheat. However, it is good because you could see a bunch of unused content, like using certain cut weapons or fighting certain bosses that were cut. Phase skips. Phase skips is a tactic that you can pull on some bosses, completely skipping boss phases and saving time on certain runs. One famous boss skip was using one weapon swap to kill Ribby and Croaks and defeating them before they even turn into the slot machine phase. Fall Guys skins. Yeah, I didn't know about this one until I started, voicing this Iceberg. This entry is about how Fall Guys did a collab adding Cuphead, Mugman, and Miss Chalice as costumes in Fall Guys, and, well, they kind of look interesting to say the least. I mean, I'm looking at them right now. They look, well, yeah, interesting is how I'd put it as well. Cuphead Fleischer inspiration. Yes, this one is true primarily because Cuphead is a tribute to many cartoons in this era, like Oswald the Rabbit, Popeye the Sailor, Steamboat Willie, and many more not just Fleischer characters, but more because, again, that's the style they chose for the game, the rubber hose style. Cuphead novels. Studio MDHR released 2 novels back in 2020. I'm not sure if they're planning to release more, considering it's been out for 5 years since the last one came out, but I doubt it. Hey, who knows though? It could come out eventually. Yo Mama So Cuphead. I completely forgot about Yo Mama before this entry, but this entry is referring to the time Yo Mama made a Cuphead-themed video. It also had Bendy and the Ink Machine. On a side note, I used to love watching their OG videos. This is written by Yoshi, but yeah, me too. Crazy they still upload though, even though most of the videos are 99% recycled of old jokes, which, yeah. Reference in Anton Blast. Apparently, Anton Blast has references via the contract collector skins. Putting these skins turns Anton into Cuphead and Annie into Mugman. Alright guys, I think that's enough spooky for this video. Make sure you go down there and give me a little piece of that 10-piece chicken, give me a little 10-piece chicken, toss me a little coin, toss me a little bone, give me a subscribe. Alright, I'll see y'all later.
Oh boy, guys, that was an amazing power nap, but thank you, Spooked, for tagging in for me, but yeah, let's do this. Turbo Super Mega. Turbo Super Mega was the original working title for Cuphead. It was to pay homage to the late 90s games that they used to play. Again, another big one being like Mega Man, but variated solos. This is referring to a video where it compares a bunch of these soundtracks of Botanic Panic From the OST to the in-game soundtracks to the unused beta to the CD soundtracks, and it basically just compares all 4 versions. Unused charms. This is referring to a charm called Shield, where basically it would make you invincible every time you fall into a pit. It would also extend your invincibility frames by a few seconds. Chad mostly uses pea shooter. This is referring to, in multiple interviews, Chad Moldenhauer has stated that his main weapon that he always uses is pea shooter. It's not clear if it's still the pea shooter, and it's not really made clear, but ever since, yeah, he still mains the pea shooter. Debug mode. Debug mode is a mod that basically lets you do things that developers can do, as previously implied. On a serious note though, it does let you do a lot of things that debuggers can do, like, load specific content that you can't normally do. Studio MDHR is working on other games. Yeah, no, this entry is true. It's unclear if Cuphead will continue, it's unclear that if Cuphead will still continue or not, but Studio MDHR have said multiple times that they're trying to work on different projects right now. Misleading charm descriptions. This entry is about how some charms in the game could be misinterpreted because of their description, primarily pea sugar, whetstone, heart, twin heart, and the astral cookie. Oh, and also heart ring. Internal boss names. This is referring to the multiple different names in the files not linking up to the bosses that they are. Especially for the King Dice bosses, I personally think that this is for simplicity's sake, or I think that the developers just wanted to be cheeky bastards, one of the two. Master Quest. This seems to be a mod for Cuphead that brings back a lot of unused attacks. The biggest one being the cloud attack for Cagney Carnation, or just some fireworks for Verna Vermin. And the unused phases and specifically the unused phase for Cala Maria. Many people complained about the absurd amount of health, specifically because the devil had 6,666 HP, and it took them about 6 minutes to beat. The mod was made by Blade-Do, and there was some great news about the mod coming in 2026. Cuphead Little Art. This entry seems to be referring to a page in the artwork where Cuphead has this pompous prick or little carefree attitude smile. This motherfucker looks like he's the rage baiting version of Anya. Look at this. Look at this piece of shit. Lobber / roundabout traps. The most broken weapon combo in legacy versions, and the lobber trap situation is when you spam the lobber upwards so the next boss will run into mini lobber balls, almost like you were trapping them. At Not Penny's Cuphead Show. This entry seems to be a fan named Penny who did a fan-made 4th season of the Cuphead Show, which honestly is interesting to say the least. Pretty good. Cuphead Show unaired episodes. This entry seems to be referring to a bunch of unaired episodes. These episodes are Evil and Vile, which was an episode about Cuphead and Mugman having both evil clones named Evil and Vile. Sweet Temptation sequel, which probably is a sequel to Sweet Temptation. New Bowl Boy sequel. Strange Magic. Jimmy Knows What For. Past the Salt, which was probably a Chef Saltbaker episode. And The Bowl Boys. Yeah, those are the unaired episodes, at least according to the wiki. Cup Latte Challenge. This is referring to my GOAT and personal king, Chicken Ninja 42, where basically he attempted to play on expert only mode without getting hit, only using a pea shooter, without using any super or EX move, no charms, and no coins. This legend managed to do it as well. He managed to completely finish it. On a side note, I love this man's videos, and I watch all your videos, especially your FNAF videos. I love to play them before I go to bed, and your challenges are fire. If you're somehow watching this, Chicken Ninja 42, bro, please let me do a challenge with you. I need this. My channel is kind of dead. Please, I need this. You are not a warrior. You're a beginner. This entry is about if you somehow die in the tutorial level, the quote will say, "You are not a warrior, you're a beginner," which is a nod to Sagat's catchphrase in Street Fighter. Shmups Inspirations. This entry is basically just an article that shows a bunch of games that Studio MDHR was inspired by. Enemy/minion names. This is basically just a subcategory of enemies that you usually see when you're fighting a boss. Like the most infamous ones being like Cuphead, Bothersome Berry, Fat Demon, Imp, Spectre, Syndicate, and a lot more. Touch Fuzzy, get a little dizzy. This entry is referring to a quick update that they added to Cagney's third phase, where if you touched one of his fuzzy projectiles, your screen would get dizzy, similar to like the fruits in Yoshi's Island, but yeah. Arby's Partnership. This was a small partnership where they had areas where you could play Cuphead and select Arby's locations, but this was back in 2020 though. Extra Charms. This entry is about a mod that showcases 9 new charms. A lot of charms like Float, Directional Dash, Insurance, and many more. But it also introduced Invincibility, or better known as Shield, which, fun fact, was, that other unused charm that we talked about earlier. Konami Code. If you input the Konami code right after you do the bad ending, that song that you heard back in the first layer would start playing of the alleged song that was used for the anti-piracy hoaxes, but yeah. Funkhead. Funkhead was a project of a mod for Friday Night Funk that added Cuphead and a bunch of other rubber hose styles. Unfortunately though, it was cancelled around last year, December, or probably around last year by the time this video is finished uploading. Unused NPCs. This is referring to that one NPC named Shelly. She would have invited the boys into the arcade, which would have turned into Coin Op Bop. At Votch123, Devil in Details. Votch123 is a YouTuber who makes fan-made artworks of Cuphead and a lot of other characters. And they also do animations and also do other fan works like The Amazing Digital Circus. Jay and Slushy. This is referring to a tweet that Studio MDHR said where basically they turned the light into a Flash game. Apparently his name is now Joy, and they were doing sort of like a mock-up battle. Conan O'Brien exclusive builds. Apparently, Studio MDHR made a build for Conan O'Brien to showcase, and basically it's just him in a rubber hose style, and it was just to promote the game as it was releasing around that time. And that is tier 4. On to tier 5, guys. 5 guys. No, but seriously though. On to tier 5. Power creep. This entry is referring about this guy who's basically bitching about how adding Miss Chalice to the game like tips the power scale, and also adding crack shot, like apparently it makes the game too easy for some reason, and that's what this is really referring to. It's just it really makes it easy. Personally speaking, I mean, I don't really see a difference, or for that matter, I don't really care. If it's really that much of an issue, the guy should just play Legacy Edition, honestly, because again, it really is like cracking at the little things at this point. But some people just are like that, I guess. Sublime. Sublime is a YouTuber who does speedruns and recently did Silksong, which is a really good game, honestly. I really do like Silksong. But yeah, no, he does primarily speedruns about Cuphead, and I mean, again, pretty good guy. Souped Up. Souped Up is a mod that basically buffs the bosses and makes them super difficult, specifically making their projectiles ungodly when they fire at them. It just, imagine expert mode and times that by 10. That's basically what this mod is. And honestly, it's a pretty good mod if you're trying to challenge yourself to do more. Post Cuphead DLC promo art differences. This entry is referring to the more cartoonish art style that the DLC artwork has. I mean, personally speaking, I just think that, the second one is a little bit better, especially because it's a lot more fitting for that era, because that era was very, for lack of a better term, rubber hose style. But, I mean, there's some differences here and there. Obviously, 5 years of differences. There's going to be a difference within 5 years, obviously. and it clearly shows. One hell of a dream is an unused devil phase. One hell of a dream would have played between the 4th and 6th phase of the devil. It's unclear how it would have played out, but my guess is something similar to what we got in the later DLC. Specifically, as you see in the current footage behind you, it shows a mock-up, or not a mock-up, it shows a prototype of what it looks like. And you could clearly see that it takes inspiration, as it later got recycled to the devil and angel fight for the delicious last course. And again, you could clearly tell that there's some inspiration, but again, this phase would have been between the 4th and 6th phase, and it would have been while transitioning, trying to go to the bottom of the pits that is hell. Geo mode. This is a mode that makes bosses basically a bit more difficult to handle, and it goes through a custom difficulty mode as I'm reading this from the description of the mod itself. Speaking of, GeoTGM. GeoTGM is a YouTuber and a mod developer for Cuphead. His contributions to the community have not gone unnoticed, as he has provided us with abundance of unused gameplay footage from the past 5 or 6 years of the game's lifecycle. For a pretty well-known data miner, but he's also known for making mods, specifically GeoMode, which is his magnum opus, I guess you could say. Unused boss moves. This entry is about the many unused boss moves / animations. The biggest examples being like Goopy Legrand's spawning berries and Cagney Carnation's unused cloud bomb. No Rize. Ruby and Croaks also have an unused devil outcome on their slot machine, which would have been a mix of all 3 of the bull, frog, and tiger attacks. The jelly beans also have an unused animation for Sugarland Shimmy. Specifically this animation right here, where it would have made them be able to jump. There's many more people who know more about this stuff, and more importantly know more about the cut content themselves than I do. But hey, if you guys ever want to see a Cuphead cut content video, let me know. But yeah. Unused Cuphead trailer. This entry is referring to the early trailer that we had that was basically unfinished in a bunch of drawings. It was definitely probably a prototype, I would say at least, for the delicious last course, where everyone was sitting at a table screaming, "Last course, last course," until Chef Saltbaker comes out and then opens the bowl for it to say "coming soon," and then it would have said "input date." Pretty interesting, honestly. The dash hitbox is undersized. The best guess of why the hitbox is undersized is that you're able to duck while dashing. The biggest example of you needing to do this is during Brinybeard's last phase, so that you can avoid the falling barrel. Coding, or the developers just wanted to give us a hard break. Personally speaking, I'm grateful for it because it has definitely come in clutch multiple times, especially when you're fighting Mr. Wheezy the Living Cigar. Calo Maria Mockup. Calo Maria Mockup is referring to how a fan showed on Twitter a mockup of her and her battle. It's honestly pretty interesting, especially because this was fan made, but also really nice about the community, honestly. Cuphead and his pal. This is an edit. This is an edit of a song, specifically the theme song, describing how Cuphead and Cuphead are getting kicked out of a Tim Hortons. I really can't say anything else without getting demonetized. That's about it. It's like a YouTube poops, I guess. I don't know. Siva Gunner Rips. This is referring to the previous entry. Apparently they're the creators who made Cuphead and Footman, and there's a whole playlist of other edits like that. But that's it. Swap Tech. To really explain this one, it's basically just a strategy that helps you shoot while you're doing an EX attack to save a bunch of time and to cut a lot more in a speedrunning strategy. But basically, to sum it up, while you're in the first animation of doing the EX attack, you can still shoot. To sum up the strategy, basically it makes it so you're able to shoot while you're still doing an EX attack. To sum it up, basically you have about 3 forms of animations that you do while you're doing the EX attack. During the first and third ones, you can swap your weapon, allowing you to shoot while you're still doing the animation. It's a little tricky to pull off, but with enough precision, you are able to do it. And again, it saves a lot of time in a lot of people's runs when you're trying to attack. But yeah, double lobber slash EX ploit. If you fire the EX attack for the lobber diagonally down, in a previous update, it would have counted as 2 lobber EX attacks as it bounces and it hits the Weeping Onion. Star skips. Star skips were meant to fly. Sorry about that, guys. Just a little joke, but yeah, no. Star skips is yet again another speedrun strategy when if you press A on the exact frame the first star appears, it completely skips the animation, essentially saving you a lot of time. Specifically saving you 0.96 seconds from the run, which in a lot of speedrunners' case, that is quite a lot. Cuphead and the racist specter of Fleischer animation. To sum it up, it's an article about an author complaining that borrowing from this era without reckoning with its racism is a mistake. Apparently, it presents a bleached version of history and ignores the struggles and contributions of black culture and the originated music and style of the game that it celebrates. All while the animation and video game industry continues to lack diversity. On a quick note, I don't mean to be this kind of guy to rant, but it is not Studio MDH's job to explain the horrors that is racism. Yes, if you were a minority in this era, you likely would get discriminated against. But berating a studio for bringing up the horrors that was this era is like, dude, come on. Not to mention, not every single animation studios at that time participated in making stereo racist caricatures. I know a lot of them did, and that was the majority, and that was normalized at that time. Again, it really isn't Studio MGH's job to explain that making blackface characters is obviously bad. And thankfully, at least as far as we know, they haven't ever done any blackface characters in Cuphead. Do with this info with what you want, but yeah. Cuphead Zoetrope. This entry is about the Cuphead Museum that was opened up for a few days in Melbourne, Australia. And basically, a zoetrope is like that layered dancing extravaganza that you've seen. The best one I know the best is from Coraline. But again, it's basically just like a layer on top of a layer of just people dancing. It's interesting to say the least. To work in the Devil's Casino. Hey guys, Editor Yoshi here. Sorry if I sound like this, I'm a little sick, but yeah, no, I originally had a completely different thing for this one. Basically, I thought it was a piece of artwork. Well, in a sort of way it is, but no, this is apparently a fanfic. I tried accessing it, but like it literally will not let me access it, like at all. But from what I've heard, it's a fanfic. I don't know what it's about, and frankly, I don't want to know. But yeah. You, Dr. Call. This is a battle song for the level of Dr. Call, and it's basically just them raging about Dr. Call, arguably because he's technically considered the hardest boss in the game, and I know for a fact that is somewhat true because I myself have struggled with him. Implied fish fuck. This entry is about a clip from the Cuphead show where Kala Maria singing that her father was a human and her mother was a fish, implying that sailor got very busy and yeah, did some things to a fish. Interesting how he created a woman really big, but you know, again, don't know. Free Cupface game. This entry is about a creepypasta where it shows supposedly a tutorial of how to get Cuphead for free, but then it gets slowly more creepier and weirder. Eventually, it's implied that Cupface commits cannibalism and supposedly wins the game or something like that. It starts off very creepy and then it gets darker and darker. Honestly, all I say is I'm pretty sure this is a creepypasta. Flembon's Hell of a Rush. This is a mod that Flembon, the creator of the mod, made called Hell of a Rush. It's basically a boss rush mod that randomizes a bunch of bosses and sort of creates a rush mode for bosses. Pretty cool, honestly, considering that Cuphead and Studio MDHR themselves were considering of making a boss rush mode, as in one of the files it was discovered that they were trying to make, that coding suggests that they were trying to make a boss rush mode, which is pretty fun to see that someone thought of that idea and built it up into actually making it fruition. But again, pretty cool. Cuphead Subliminal Messages. This entry is about a Reddit thread that basically connects a bunch of biblical stories to the actual game. Well, obviously, literally the biblical devil from the book of Genesis. But then it straight up just starts arguing to what ending is canon to the game. So, yeah. Toyland Tussle. Toyland Tussle is a rubber hose game that draws heavy inspiration from Cuphead. It's pretty bare bones, to say the things, because it only has one boss, but again, interesting. And it released around summer of this year. Interesting knockoff, again, pretty cool for a fan-made game, but it's $3, so do with that info as you will. And yeah, there you go. Tier 5 is done. On to Tier 6, guys. We're really close to wrapping this up. And also, if you guys made it this far, just, how you guys doing? I don't know. Anyways, on to Tier 6. Calypso Mode. Calypso Mode is a challenge that mixes up Geo, Master Quest, and Souped Up, essentially making it the hardest mod of all time. Well, at least for now. It's basically a mashup of all three mods and making it... There's actually footage out there of someone beating it S rank, hitless. So, yeah. Pretty interesting. I'm sorry if, like, I say pretty interesting for everything, because it genuinely is cool to see how many people can beat Cuphead with even more challenges. Arby's Cuphead app. This is the app that came out along with the collab that Arby's did with Cuphead. And basically it's just Snapchat filters, but it puts Cuphead's face on your face. And it shows a bunch of other enemies and well-known bosses in the game. Unfortunately, it's no longer available for download, so all I see is just these screenshots. So yeah. Maddie is a Cuphead YouTuber who does a bunch of challenges and surprisingly has a low view count as of watching this video. More of a hidden gem, I guess. But honestly, you should check them out. Hiragi Tia. Hiragi Tia is an SNES YouTuber that does a lot of challenges, like Super Mario Kart, F-Zero, and Cuphead. And god damn it, if someone can turn off that mother... Hiragi Tia is an SNES YouTuber that does a bunch of challenges, specifically Super Mario Kart, F-Zero, and Cuphead. Her last video... Hey guys, Editor Yoshi here. I just wanted to say that I misgendered Hiragi Tia. Hiragi Tia is a man, not a woman, so if you see why there's like redubbing on this, that's why, but yeah. It was about Cuphead about 12 days ago. As of me recording this take, he has a very good set of principles. I'm gonna read them to you out loud right now. Number 1, straight to the point. Number 2, no loud and obnoxious intros. Number 3, no sponsors. Number 4, no please like and subscribe or comment. And number 5, no YouTube shorts. Honestly, good for her for having these set of principles, honestly. Personally, me speaking, I mean, I'm already down this deep, so like there's no way I can stick to this, but and hey, at least we know that these set of principles do work, because as of recording he has about 10,000 subscribers. Good for him. Oh, and also later on I'm gonna thank him. Please don't let this happen to Cuphead. This is referring to a video that was released about 7 years ago talking about not making the community mainstream. Ooh, hate to break it to you, pal. It sort of did go mainstream a few years ago. Well, not as mainstream as, you know, another community. FNAF, just saying. Baking the Wonder Tart lyrics. This is referring to the video that shows the process of what it took to make Chef Saltbaker's boss song. Believe it or not, it took 110 musicians performing in a big band symphony, and all in sync too. It's really interesting. Again, I'm sorry if I'm using the word interesting loosely here, but again, it really is just amazing to see how much dedication they put into their work. Because again, orchestrating 110 musicians really is really difficult to do. And again, I'm really glad that it came out absolutely amazing. Rook Boss was going to be a castle. Referring to this concept art in the official art book, where it shows a lot of his prototype designs. And again, we could clearly see right here that he was supposed to be an actual castle. As we see right here, it shows concept art of him, and you can clearly see he was at one point supposed to be a castle, similar to some chess pieces out there. But again, they went more for the faithful design of an actual chess piece. Unused run and guns. This is referring to the 3 unused run and gun stages. The first one was called Woodland Walk, the second one being Tricky Thicket, and the last one being Backwards Crusade. A few of the names did manage to stick, but the stages themselves have not. As you could clearly see, they're more or less a mix-up of the first stage. Because again, some of them take inspiration from Backwards Crusade or Woodland Walk, but yeah. Cup Core. Believe it or not, this isn't referring to some Nightcore version of some songs, but even though that would honestly go fire. This is actually referring to a mod that apparently makes it more difficult. There really isn't much known about Cup Core, but apparently, when you run it through an antivirus scanner, it would mark that it was a virus. Likely though, it was either straight code or probably a false positive warning. It really is hard to find information about this, and I tried contacting someone, which again, we'll see. Cupkazio, because that's how it's pronounced apparently. The Iceberg got it wrong. But Cupkazio was a mod made by Gabin Zone. It has some unique variations of projectiles, like many layers of Wally's feathers overlap each other. But it's not really a well-known mod or even well played, honestly. But another thing I wanted to say that I confused this for overcomplicated with Cupkazio. Cuphead CD. This is referring to the official soundtrack that you can hear when you purchase a copy of the official soundtrack that is on CD. Hell, even unused songs appear on the CD compared to the actual OST. But if not, this entry is probably referring to the physical version of Cuphead, because they do exist out there. They were mostly digital. Cuphead for the longest time was mostly digital, but again, you can still find physical copies of Cuphead. Popeye's comic. For the 90th anniversary for Popeyes, Studio MDHR collaborated with the Popeyes team to make a comic where Popeyes goes to the mausoleum levels and fights the ghost there. Pretty interesting, and honestly, again, really amazing to see that, how far it gets you. It really literally they collaborated with one of their childhood cartoons. Not a lot of people get to say that. Secondary Cuphead Reddits. This is referring to the Reddits that are not directly related to r/Cuphead. Primarily the ones that they're talking about are r/Cuphead fanart and r/Cuphead memery. Again, they're not directly related to r/Cuphead, but obviously, you know, they're all Cuphead related. Gwen and the Magic Inkwell. This is referring to a fanfic where an 18-year-old girl from the Great Depression era gets kidnapped by the devil and forces her to be his wife. That's the synopsis of this. Again, it's a fanfic. Not really much that I can discuss without getting demonetized, but yeah. Beast Boy playing Cuphead. In the Teen Titans live action in the episode Doom Patrol, you could clearly see that Beast Boy is waiting on a loading screen while playing Cuphead. You could tell because of the hourglass. Unused Switch trailer. This This is referring to an outtake that they did for this Switch trailer that was never used, primarily because, well, it was basically a blooper. So, yeah. Overcomplicated. Overcomplicated is yet another mod that Hiiragi Tia played. It was never finished, however, and it makes the game a little bit more harder than Cupcore, but apparently the creator of it has a missing persons report filed recently, so take that information as you will. Apparently it was never finished, and again, the missing persons report does not lie. Eminem reference as dialogue error. This is a glitch that happens while you're trying to defeat Chef Saltbaker, where if it doesn't load correctly at the end, it sort of makes it so one of the NPCs says, "Hi, my name is what? My name is who?" This is a nod to Eminem. This is a nod obviously to Slim Shady, but apparently it was a glitch and it was not supposed to be something that was happening. But again, it's a glitch that happens when things don't load correctly. You guys finally made it. The final layer. Here we go, guys. Let's get this finished, shall we? The Abyss. Cuphead Lazy Mod. Apparently, for the translation of this is what it says. Cuphead Fun Modification. This mod changes the bosses, attacks, weapons, charms, and tubes, and it duplicates a bunch of bosses for more HP. That's about it. Morrison Jack's mod is the hardest difficulty mod. This is a mod for the delicious last course that increases the difficulty for the bosses severely. To perform it hitless, you literally need whetstone to complete it. Not sure about it being the hardest mod, however, though, but again, to each their own. Game Boy 4784's Cuphead mod, April. This is a project where Game Boy 4784 made a new mod for Cuphead every single day. From a thicker EX attack to Cuphead, but he's allergic to pink. Things like Rumor Honey Bottoms, but she gets impatient, basically just meaning she skips to the third phase almost immediately while you're still fighting the first phase. These are just a few of the many mods that there are. It's really impressive how he made every single mod on the daily. Evil mod.
Start digging in your butt, twin.
My bad, guys, my bad. Wrong audio, wrong audio. Evil mod.
Do not research.
The description basically just says nada nada, which just means nothing nothing in Spanish, so this is probably just a joke entry. Chalice Super 3 does 145 damage overall. Just referring to the fact on the wiki that her Super 3 doesn't have an exact number on how much it does per super. It's also just because it really just varies depending on where you activated it, if you're on a platform or not, but it seems to say that the average is 145. 3 Lame Studio Cuphead animations. This is just referring to a bunch of archived videos for Cuphead animations that are just meme-like. Again, sort of YouTube poop-like, but again, more meme than anything. Cuphead 3, The Final Chapter. This is referring to a fan-made game that has a bunch of characters and a bunch of creepypastas. But here's what the synopsis says. The main objective for Cuphead, Mugman, and Miss Chalice is to unravel the mystery behind this alternate universe and discover who is behind these events. Meanwhile, Eugene, Laura, Audrey, Andrew, Cammy, Millie, and Miss Piala embark on a parallel mission to find Igor Farmer, a cousin of Eugene, and Laura, who is transformed into the Inkblot monster after the previous events. Cuphead Fanon Wiki. If I had a nickel for every time there's at least one fanfic in every goddamn layer. But to sum it up very quickly, it's basically a wiki that has a bunch of fanfics and it shows them alphabetically for some goddamn reason. All of them and all of their ships or canon ships or some shit like that. Don't. On an actual note, guys, I'm just okay. It's just that I'm just tired right now. Souped up changelog. This is just referring to the changelog throughout the years. There's really nothing else. MyCool is a speedrunner who has the records for the most single boss runs. He's just a world-known record, I guess. CD exclusive. The Bitter End. Again, similar to what I said earlier for the Cuphead CDs, this is referring to how previously considered The Bitter End was a unreleased music. However, it did debut as part of the official CD soundtrack when this came out. Again, that's why some people prefer to buy the CD, because again, it comes with unreleased songs from Cuphead. Cup Guvno is impossible. Cuppa Guvno is a mod that allegedly is the hardest mod, since apparently it alters bosses' attacks, introduces new ones, and it expands your arsenal with new weapons, charms, and super arts. It adds a brand new boss enhanced with machine learning algorithms and a lot more apparently. Extra Weapons mod. The Extra Weapons mod is a mod that does that. It adds more weapons. 9 total to be exact, 7 original and 2 of the unused ones. These include some like Lightning Rod, Arc, Blitzer, Crossfire, and a lot more. Older MDHR games seen in Japanese Nintendo official article. This is referring to this article where Nintendo had an interview about Chad and Jared explaining how they showed a bunch of early artwork for their earlier artworks. They talked a lot more about their earlier work, specifically a bunch of prototypes, and again, some recreational art to go along with it. Jason Doucette. I low-key thought this was the protagonist for GTA 6, Jason Duval, but no, it's not. No, Jason Duval was one of Chad and Jared's childhood friends who unfortunately passed away on September 27th, 2011. It really is unclear for what he passed away from, but his family did post an obituary about him, and yeah, it's very tragic. Does anybody know why my Cuphead audio sounds like this? This entry is referring about a glitch that a person encountered that made their audio sound like chalk to a board. It is really unclear how they made it sound like this. All they know is that, but they said that they were using a predated version of what is now the Xbox app, but pre-2024 you might have seen it called the Xbox Console Companion. It no longer works, of course, because they upgraded the app and the old one no longer works, which is what I primarily use to record my Xbox videos back in the day, specifically the GTA 5 videos. But again, I never had that problem, and it might have been a USB error. And that was the Cuphead Iceberg video. I just want to say, guys, thank you guys for watching it, for watching this hour, and I don't know how long this video is. I just want to say thank you for Major Spooked, aka Spooky, for hopping on the collab. I really do appreciate it. And another person I want to thank is Hidagi Tia, because I actually managed to reach out to her, and she gave me a bunch of insight for a few of these entries to clarify. And also, I gave her a raw version of this to see if there was anything inaccurate, and hopefully it's not. One last thing, I just want to say shout out to Tetrabit Gaming, as he gave me explicit permission for me to use his video, at least for his entry. But with that said, guys, this has been the ultimate Cuphead Iceberg. Yo, I just want to say, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I also want to say thank you so much for 1.3k subscribers. I really do appreciate it, guys. This channel means the literal world to me, and honestly, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. But besides that, I just want to say that BB, aka Serena, the person from my last video, couldn't make it because she was very busy, but it is what it is. Anyways, I got nothing to say. King's got something to say, so let's bring him on.
Shit. Hey guys, I'm King VA. Make sure to follow me, but also, happy holidays. Make sure you do subscribe to this guy because he's super cool, makes awesome content. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yoshi on the beat, motherfucker.
Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Sorry if I sound like this. It's just that I got sick again for some reason. I like to get sick during this time, but sorry I sound like ass.
I don't know how the song goes.
Once bitten and twice shy. I keep my distance, but you still catch my eye. Tell me, baby, do you recognize me? Well, it's been a year, it doesn't surprise me. I wrapped it up and sent it with a note saying I love you, I meant it. Now I know what a fool I've been, but if you kiss me now, I know you fool me again. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Oh, baby. A crowded room, friends with tired eyes. I'm hiding from you and your soul of ice. My God, I thought you were someone to rely on. Me, I guess I was a shoulder to cry on. A face-on lover with a fire in his heart. A man undercover, but you tore me apart. Ooh, now I found real love and you'll never fool me again. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I gave it to someone special. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I gave it to someone special. Face-on lover with a fire in his heart. A man undercover, but you tore him apart. Maybe, hopefully next year. I'll give it to someone, I'll give it to someone special. Special. Someone